take your fears, your insecurities, your worries, you roll them all up into a ball, you turn those son bitches sideways and stick them straight up, then candy out!
Pick your goal and stick fucking to it. You wishy-washy motherfuckers. I can't fucking stand you.
I wanted to make sure that out of the 24 hours of the day, that I don't waste one single hour. Those hours were too precious. And so there I just want to tell people, don't give me this thing, I have a difficult time with the time and I don't have time for this and I don't have that. You have time. You make the time.
And now, welcome to the Be Informed, Live Fit podcast, sponsored by FitnessInformant.com.
About how I triple my fan base, net worth bench. Can't say there's worse, bitch. Do something, fuck it, I prove
What's going on, everybody? Welcome inside the Be Informed, Live Fit podcast. I am your host, Fitness Informant founder and CEO, Ryan Buckeye. I want to thank you all for tuning in to this week's episode. It's the Olympia Week, 2019, Mr. Olympia Week. I'm excited. I'm going back to the Olympia. It's been a hot minute since I've been there. Last year, I did not make it because we had the birth of my daughter, which obviously for those listening, if you've ever had a child before or those even watching via YouTube, that takes precedent over the Mr. Olympia. But stoked this year for the Olympia, not for the competition per se, but just to go to Vegas, be back in Vegas, be embedded in that environment with people that I love in this space and respect. So a really exciting week for us here at Fitness Informant. But I also want to take this time and this podcast this week to do a sort of like a reanalysis of a major topic that I discussed right around a year ago from this. And for those of you who've been following the podcast for a while, you may remember a podcast entitled Steroids Saved My Life. Now, I did a podcast a year ago about me being on TRT, or Testosterone Replacement Therapy. So today's episode, it's going to be me deep diving into my TRT protocol for the better part of the last year of my life and how it's changed my life and whether or not I still believe today, as I did when I recorded that podcast, that TRT changed my life. So I've had a lot of people reach out to me and ask me about testosterone replacement therapy. I get asked about it quite a bit. So I figured there's no better time like the present to discuss TRT, and that will be today's episode. I wanted to tell you guys something too, that there will not be a new episode next week with the Olympia going on. And then obviously I'll tell you why here after this week's Pumped Up segment of the week. This week's Pumped Up segment of the week is being brought to you by Build Fast Formula's award-winning Vasal Blitz Pumping Nutter. Not only is Vasal Blitz the winner of our 2018 Shield of Excellence Supplement Award for the best pump product, it is also the first nitrate formula fully disclosed with 30 servings, not scoops. When Vasal Blitz is consumed daily, even on your off days, it will last you a full month. All this for only $34.99. And as a special offer to this listening audience here, use coupon code INFORMANT and save 15%. I am pumped up about a huge moment in my life. My wife and I had purchased our first home back in 2015, the year we got married. We purchased the home in March. We knew it was a starter home for us. We thought about a 5-year plan in this place, and the sale of that home will actually take place the Monday after the Olympia. We will be selling to the new owners as we built our brand new, essentially dream home, beautiful home, 20 minutes north of where we're at, that we move in and close on that on Tuesday, which is the day that this podcast will drop. Think about this. I travel to the Olympia on Thursday. I'm in Vegas Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, get back at midnight on Sunday. Monday morning, I wake up. I close on my current house. I put all my shit in boxes, even though most of it already is. And on Tuesday, I toss those boxes in the back of a U-Haul, drive it up north, and take it into my new forever home. So I have a lot going on in my personal life. I have a lot going on in my professional life with the Olympia, and I just don't believe there's going to be time to get a new podcast episode up in the following week. So I apologize. But here's the good thing. We do have a bunch of podcast episodes of the Iron Jungle podcast with Drew Peters and a bunch of episodes of the Two Guys, One Shaker Cup with Josh Shaw. So I'm pumped up that I'm not leaving you all hanging. I'm pumped up that you guys can still get content and hear my beautiful, amazing voice for radio. But I'm pumped up that I'm moving on in my life. And I had said this via a social media post, and this is not to get cheesy or to get emotional, but, back when I was 14, 15 years old, I slept on a couch in a living room in a low-income housing project with my mother and my brother. It was a 2-bedroom place. My mom got one room, my brother got the other room, and then I got the couch. That was my bedroom. Didn't even have a room in my teenage years, of all things. And here I am at 32, built a house from the bottom up, brand new, never been lived in before. Designed my own master bedroom, designed my own kitchen, designed my living room, designed everything. Every element of the home has my fingerprints on it. And when I was 15, I was in that situation. I saw my mom work 3 jobs. I thought to myself, well, here is an opportunity of a lifetime. Because if I want to be more, if I want to strive to be more and strive to be better than the situation that I'm currently embedded in, I need to go above and beyond. So I became the first person of my family to go to college. Nobody has gone to college in my family prior to that. I went to a 4-year university in Wisconsin, graduated top of my class in 2009. I was valedictorian of my class. Could you believe that? Yeah, me in business. But I even knew then that I still had to keep going. And I didn't have any money. I mean, think about where I grew up in. I grew up in low income housing. I had to work when I was 14. I couldn't play high school sports, so I had to keep working. Graduated college, took a job, and I realized that a PhD/master's degree was the road I wanted to go. So I decided to go to the University of Minnesota, Carlson School of Management, get my MBA, and take on 6 figures of debt because that is, what you do at that point. In hindsight, it was the best decision I ever made. Even though I took on a lot of debt, we paid that debt off. Subsequently, no longer have any debt in our life other than our mortgage. And you work hard, put your head down, and you fucking grind. And you grind hard. And if you have a vision for your future and a goal for what you want to accomplish, no one in this world can fucking stop you. No one. And I'll tell you right now, nobody has stopped me. Nobody is going to stop me. No one's going to stop this movement with Fitness Informant. And I am pumped the fuck up that I'm moving into my new place. I have a new office with windows that's going to give me real natural sunlight with my beautiful family. And I could not be more excited about my future and the future of my family and the future of Fitness Informant as I move into that new establishment. So I'm pumped up about the new house. Sorry about the lack of the episode. But again, check out the 2 Guys, 1 Shaker Cup with Josh Shaw or the Iron Jungle podcast with Drew Peters. There's a lot of great content coming from those podcasts. I fucking do 3 podcasts. What the fuck is wrong with me? Anyway, our Genius Moment of the Week is being brought to you by the Genius brand. The Genius brand offers high-quality supplements with scientifically proven, clinically dosed, all-natural ingredients. With a blatant disregard for profit margins, the Genius brand focuses on creating innovative, industry-leading wellness supplements to help you live an active, healthy, and long-lasting life. Supplement smarter today. Check out full reviews of the Genius brand over at fitnessinformant.com. The Genius Moment of the Week this week stems from a conversation that took place in the Self-Made Barbell Brigade Facebook group. That is our Facebook group. If you're not part of it, go ahead and join that group. A lot of great content in there. But a guy made a post, and this is not throwing him under the bus at all, but I just want people to be well aware of this. Made a post how his fat burner, he ran out of his fat burner. And his new fat burner, Ghost Burn, was not going to be in for a couple days. So he wanted to go to a GNC and was asking for suggestions on a fat burner to get in the time being. People listening to this podcast, supplements are not the end-all, be-all. I mean, this is coming from a person, again, and I've said this multiple times, who makes a living within the dietary supplement industry. But if you have to go 3 days without a supplement and it drives you insane to the point where you're going to walk into a GNC and drop $40 on a 30-unit container just because your other container is not going to be there for 3 days, you're having issues. Settle down. Relax. You don't need a fat burner for those 3 days. Guess what that fat burner is going to do for you if you have it? Nothing. It really is going to do absolutely nothing. If over those 3 days, you can wait 3 days until your new thing comes on. So the Genius Moment of the Week this week is don't supplements are not religion. Don't over dramatize the sports nutrition industry, people. Supplements are great, and yes, there's a placebo effect to some of them, and it makes you feel a certain way. God forbid, if I had to go 3 days without a pre-workout, I'd probably go crazy, right? I mean, that's probably what a lot of you people out there are thinking right now. But just relax. Have a cup of coffee. Chill. You don't need to run to the nearest brick and mortar and buy a pre-workout or a fat burner if you have one on the way. Now, if you run out and you don't have one on the way and you need a new one, sure, absolutely. Go to the store and buy one. But you don't need to be taking it 24/7. So just make sure that you are supplementing correctly. Don't overcomplicate this stuff. Supplements are not the end-all, be-all. A lot of the supplements that you people are taking, they're doing you no good anyway because you don't have your diet in point. Your workouts are mediocre at best. Or you're not informed enough on the supplements that you're taking. So that's why we have this platform, Fitness Informant, to offer that platform so that way you all know exactly what you're taking, why you should take it, when you should take it, and even if you should take it. So this week we're going to talk about TRT, testosterone use, steroid use from your boy. Listen, I've been accused of using steroids since I was, 26, and I hadn't been. So, in hindsight, trying to make the WWE, maybe I should have been, but I wasn't. So we're going to dive into TRT. We're going to dive into what it's done for me in the last year. We're going to dive into how to go about, getting more information on it if you think that you're in need. And this is more of an educational, informative podcast for those who maybe suffer from hypogonadism or, severe fatigue, even mental health like depression, stress, anxiety. Coming back right after this.
The BAR Breakfast at the Ready is finally here. The world's first protein bar made with real cereal pieces from some of your favorite cereals and the best cereals of all time. This bar has 20 grams of protein, only 20 grams of carbohydrates, with 5 of them coming from sugar, and 4 grams of fat, 190 delicious calories that you can fit in at any time. Any person can take this bar, man, woman, child, whether you're working out, you're training to build muscle, or you just need a healthy snack throughout the day. The BAR is your solution. Go to redcon1.com and order the BAR Breakfast at the Ready right now.
With the amount of hard work that I put in, I need a reputable brand.
I absolutely love this stuff.
The energy is amazing. The pumps are ridiculous. The flavor is absolutely delicious.
I was blown away by the amount of energy, the muscle pump.
It keeps me going throughout the day.
Take your workouts to the next level.
The energy was so crazy for me.
Really gives me the boost I'm needing in the morning.
You will train harder. You will see better pumps. You will go longer in the gym.
The quality of the ingredients makes a difference.
Try Rise. You're going to love it. I guarantee it.
Their products are top of the range, and I'm very proud to be a part of Team Rice.
For the last 2 decades, we have been the best kept secret of the supplement industry. We've kept our heads down and worked. We pioneered full label transparency and full therapeutic doses because we believe that truly hard work requires truly effective tools. 2 decades is a long time to commit to one pursuit, but when you act with purpose and become centered in yourself, eventually you realize that you were born and bred for this. The things you once thought impossible, you now do every day. We don't like the easy way, it just doesn't feel right. We'll take the long, hard road over a shortcut any day. It takes longer, sure, but in the end, you know you earned it. And with the right team behind you, pushing yourself further than you've ever been would be just another afternoon doing what you love most.
Pretty crazy that over 10,000 guys have now called Superhuman pre-workout the best pre-workout on the planet. But this did not happen overnight. In fact, here's the entire history of Superhuman pre-workout from the very first edition of Superhuman Health Juice all the way to our latest edition. And we have been obsessed with perfecting this formula every step of the way. And the reason that Superhuman pre-workout is so good is because it is the first formula in world history max dose in the 5 pillars of a perfect pre-workout. So you are literally guaranteed to see faster muscle building and fat loss results. So tap the link to receive 20% off your first tub using the code NEWGAINS. And I am so confident you're going to be blown away by Superhuman pre-workout. I want to offer you a 365-day money-back guarantee so you have nothing to lose.
And girls, welcome inside this episode. I'm actually excited about doing this because I've gotten a lot of questions on this, and this today is just me talking. But listen, full transparency, full admission. I've done this a year ago. I'm on steroids. I use steroids. I use them religiously, and I need them because they saved my fucking life. Now, let me explain to you, give you a little backstory on why, because I know we have a lot of new listeners, and you probably haven't taken the time to listen to the initial episode on how I said steroids saved my life. And I recorded this episode last fall. So for the longest time, and I'll try to give you guys the cliff notes, for the longest time, I had lived a life of where I was, I had fatigue lack of energy. I was never really depressed per se, but maybe not always the happiest. And, unlike my friends who, if you're male, you understand this. If you're female, you probably understand this too. But, I was never like a walking hard on like my friends. They were always just, especially in college, man. I mean, women. And trust me, I love women. I do. But I was never all about just trying to get laid all the time. And go back to high school, the same thing. And it's not, and it's not that I wasn't interested, because I was. But libido was not something that was through the roof like a lot of my friends were. And I never thought too much of it. So a couple things in my past. So I did use pro-hormones back when I was in college. And at that time, those oral pro-hormones were toxic as fuck. I mean, they were essentially oral steroids. So you're suppressing your natural testosterone levels to begin with. You're fucking up your liver. And I bought them because I was not informed. I was not educated as I was today. And I had purchased them from a Complete Nutrition. And I think a lot of people listening to this podcast are probably be shaking their head and thinking, God damn, they remember those pro-hormones from those places. They weren't good. So there's one of the first aspects in my life where, outside of, a really poor diet as a child, I was 14 years old, 220 pounds, just really bad diet. Really bad diets can lead to a decrease in natural testosterone levels too. But then, taking a testosterone suppressant like a pro-hormone and not necessarily having a post-cycle therapy the way it's supposed to go. Sure, they sold me a PCT. I paid $150 for the entire stack, which included like 3 different bottles of shit that you would stack and you'd stay. You would basically, have them at different times throughout the cycle. But I mean, if they're selling you at that time, if they're selling you basically an oral steroid, do you really think that the PCT is worth shit? Probably not. So, between the combination of a really shitty diet, years old, because I wanted to be a professional wrestler. That was what I wanted to do. I started pro wrestling when I was 16. I just didn't want to inject and use a needle. So I thought of what is a legal way that I can get bigger and put on muscle. And it's like, okay, well, here's this pro-hormone thing that seems to be blowing the fuck up. Let's use that. Let's take that. And I did it several times. It wasn't just a one-cycle thing. I took several of them. And I remember, even after they took those pro-hormones off the market, I had texted the guy that worked at Complete Nutrition. I said, listen, they're not there anymore. Do you have anything else? And, he had some at his house that he bought because he knew it was be taken off. So I would buy those. This is what people who don't know what the fuck they're doing do. And I fully admit, at one point in my life, I did not know what the fuck I was doing at all. And suppression of testosterone levels, really what that does is they don't necessarily bounce back. It's not like you can take an exogenous anabolic, suppress your testosterone levels, and it just bounces back. That's not how it works. You have to kickstart that testosterone. You have to kickstart your testicles and your nuts to say, listen, idiot, like your test levels are not naturally that high. They were that high because you're using an exogenous source. And by exogenous, I mean an outside source, right? To obtain testosterone levels that are higher than what they normally would be. So your body just assumes like, hey, I have high test levels. I can stop producing testosterone because I don't need to. Well, when your body stops having those high testosterone levels, it doesn't just automatically turn back on like a light switch. You have that. And it could cause permanent damage. And for a lot of people, it does. So if you think about people out there who've abused steroids or used steroids that haven't used maybe a post-cycle therapy or a PCT, something like, I'm not saying this is what to do, but like if you're not using like an AI, a aromatase inhibitor, which is going to essentially control your estrogen levels, and you're not using something that's going to kickstart basically your testosterone again, whether it's maybe an HCG or a Clomid or something along those lines, you could be fucked. You could easily be fucked. And for me, I just didn't. So things that I felt, things since that time, like in my life, obviously extremely low libido. Like, yes, I was still able to have sex. I was still attracted to women, but not to the levels in which I thought I should have. And what I mean by that is it's not like I couldn't have done something, like I couldn't have gone 3-4 times in one night. I just couldn't have done that. Not because I lacked the stamina, but because I lacked the libido. I just wasn't interested. And it's fucking weird. But that's full transparency and full honesty. And then came these things called SARMs, right? As I got older and, my mindset still is not super informative. Now, at this point, I started learning more and more about SARMs, but I still was not interested in injections. I was still not interested in any injections. I was interested in oral anything to get me bigger because I had this obsession with getting big. I wanted to be muscular. I wanted to be giant. I wanted to be like my heroes. I wanted to be like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. I wanted to be like the pro wrestlers on TV who I wanted to be. And I knew in order to get to WWE, I had to get big. At least that's what I thought. So then I dove into SARMs, and the same thing. SARMs are basically, the 2018 version. And I'm saying 2018 and 2000, whenever it was, 2016 version of pro hormones back in 2008. Whatever it was that I took those. So again, suppressing your natural testosterone levels. So not only did my testosterone probably never rebound from pro hormones back in college, but then on top of that, I started working with like LGD 4033, Rad 140. These different SARMs, which are oral, and at the time they weren't legal yet. They were research purposes for sure, but the SARMs Act just recently came out now. So I thought this might be a way. And I put on size with them. I did put on some size with them, but I think then that too definitely wrecked my natural testosterone level. So there's three things kind of going on here, and I don't want to ramble on about it. But first off, I think I naturally had low T just in general, just from a poor diet as a kid. Took exogenous pro hormones back in college in my teenage years, which was one contributing factor to keeping those testosterone levels low. And then SARMs on top of that, which was another kick to the ass of that, which kept them even lower. Now, when I knew I really thought I had a problem was when my wife and I were trying to conceive our first child. And now there's a combination here, right? When you're guys and girls out there listening, if you've ever had to try to have a child before, and your significant other has been on birth control for a long time, coming off birth control, they say that it can take time to conceive a child. It just takes time for the female hormones to get back to where they need to be producing a monthly cycle and, to produce eggs. And that way you could obviously have a child. Well, we tried. And we tried, and it just was not happening. And this was months and months after the birth control, and now we were starting to think, like, what's going on? So, I didn't want my wife to think something was wrong with her if it wasn't. So I started thinking, like, well, maybe it's me. Maybe it is you, Ryan. Maybe it is me. Maybe I'm the reason why we're not conceiving a child. And I went in and I got my testosterone levels checked. And this was the summer of 2017, I believe, is what it was, if I remember right. And my levels came back, I think, at like 92. Now, those of you listening who know normal levels know that is super low. That is dangerously low. So low. And at that point, I've told this before, at that point, when they were that dangerously low, I ignored it. I didn't do anything. Why? Because I'm a 29-year-old guy. I was embarrassed. I wasn't happy about it. I didn't want to go. I mean, I've been anti-drugs my whole life. I didn't want to do anything with them, right? And, I was embarrassed. I didn't say anything. So what I did is I got Clomid from people that I knew, which Clomid essentially can help produce sperm to make sure that you can conceive a child or kind of kickstart your nuts into producing higher levels of testosterone. Because I know we were trying to have a child, and I wanted to do everything I could to have a child. So Clomid was my source of truth at that point. And the thing is, it worked. It worked. We got pregnant in September of that year, September of 2017. And, I thought at that point my troubles were gone, and they were behind me, and things were great. And, unfortunately, 6 to 8 weeks later, as 20% of the population experiences, we lost the child. It was our first, and, to this day, I don't know if it was going to be a boy or a girl. And, I consistently sometimes think about that. I think everybody does. And that hurt. It hurt a lot. It hurt for a couple of reasons. One, obviously, seeing how distraught my wife was after how long we tried. We tried for so long to have a child, and when we finally got it, it was taken away. It was taken away from us. So there's one. The second factor is I knew how hard it was for us to conceive, and I knew it was probably because of me. I knew that my testosterone levels were low. And when you have low testosterone levels, your body just does not produce enough of it, and you don't produce enough sperm. Like everything, LH, sex-binding gluten hormone, like all that stuff was low. And when, like I said, when that's low, it's very difficult to conceive a child. So then, after mourning what happened and grieving what happened, and I knew we were going to try again. I knew that we would be trying again for a child, and I was stressing out. I mean, imagine, if you can for a second, imagine me knowing what you know. Now you have to try again, and you're stressing out because you still don't want to go on something. You don't want to admit that you have the testosterone level of basically a 14-year-old girl. I mean, that's weird, right? Like, I mean, those of you listening right now are probably like maybe giggled a little bit on that, and but it's not funny, man. It is not funny. So, I mean, at that point, right, you don't give up. You get back to it, and you try to have a child again and again. And, this time without the use of Clomid, just using just an over-the-counter testosterone booster, we were able to conceive a child in January of 2018. So last January. And this one, fortunately, went through. The pregnancy itself was not easy. We suffered plenty in this pregnancy. Everything from, placenta previa to breech to, I mean, you name it, it seemed like it happened to us. So there was a lot of stresses throughout this pregnancy and a lot of things that took its toll both on me and my wife. And for those of you who know, elevated levels of stress can lead to elevated levels of cortisol, which then could obviously lower testosterone levels even more. And the summer of 2018, before Aurora was born, and Aurora is our baby girl who was born in August, who's absolutely wonderful and beautiful and the greatest thing that's ever happened to me, I knew I had a problem because my wife and I would sit and we'd watch television at night. And I was working an office job, so I was staring at the computer all day. And I realized you can have eye fatigue, you can just be tired in general. But 6 o'clock at night, I'm falling asleep on the couch. 6 o'clock at night, I am falling asleep on the couch. I'm fatigued. I'm unhappy. I am irritable. Just not me. I'm just not me. And on top of that, all these elevated levels of stress from my job, my personal life with what's going on with the pregnancy, and just understand that I'm having a kid coming soon, and that takes even though you're ready, you're not really ready. And I knew at this point that something had to be done. Something had to change. So actually, while right as we were supposed to give birth in September, and we went 4 weeks early. So in August, Aurora was born, and she was born 4 weeks early. Thankfully, no NICU. Everything's perfect. And she was she was small, but she was perfect in every sense of the word. But while we were in the hospital and while we were in the recovery room, I took the time to essentially get blood work done and go see an endocrinologist and go through my blood work. And my testosterone levels were lower than they were the time before. And if you remember the time before, they were in the 90s. My levels at this point were tanked, basically nothing. And it didn't surprise me. I knew I had low T's. I knew I felt different. I came home from a gym early one day session. I left the gym early. I don't leave the gym early. And I told my wife, I said, something is wrong with me. Something is not right with me because I don't feel like this. This is not me. And that is the decision that I said, listen, if I need to be, or if I want to be the best husband and the best father that I possibly can be, I need to get right. I need to get right. So at the age of 31 years old, from a doctor recommendation, I got a script for testosterone replacement therapy, TRT, which requires weekly injections. I am also taking HCG, which tells my body to keep producing sperm because we want to have more children someday. And I'm taking care of myself. And that right there is the backstory to my journey to being prescribed and being on TRT. Now, I've been on TRT since last summer, right after the summer, and it's been a full year since then. So we're going to take a quick break, come back, and I want to dive into the updates since then as we close out the show with how I feel now and how things are going and what you can do if you think that you may be having an issue with testosterone or other hormones, because they really are complicated, but they're super, super important.
So this is it. The new flavor is in production as we speak. We've been hyped about this for months and the time is finally here. So let's go check it out. In here. This is it. Galaxy Burst. This flavor has a burst of candy with a hint of tart, leaving your taste buds begging for more. It's fruity and creamy, yet sweet and tangy. After months of testing and formulation, this galactic flavor is sure to take over the galaxy. Now let's give it a try. So good. Hey, what are you doing? Oh, time to go.
That's the story, right? That's what led me to going on TRT protocol, to finally accepting like I have a problem. I need to fix it. I need to be better with my life so I can be better for my family. So Aurora comes along. I am now ready to be a full-time father while obviously working in corporate America still at this time, and then running a side hustle known to all of you listening or watching as Fitness Informant. And I'll be honest, I was a little nervous, a little scared about TRT, because TRT is not just a one and done thing. You don't just take one injection and things are just better. It's not how it works. TRT is a lifelong thing. I'm at 32 years of age now, and I was 31 when I started. So for a better part of probably 50 years, you know, if I make it to 80, I will be doing weekly injections of testosterone to essentially live a normal, healthy life. Now, what it's done for me, it's hard to put into words. It's changed everything. You know, I was operating at levels below optimal, and I was able to live, be pseudo happy, and obviously build muscle, which is interesting because most people that don't have T levels like that are not able to build muscle. Now, how was I able to build muscle? Well, I mean, I would still have energy in the morning. I go to the gym early. So for me, building muscle still happened, but imagine if I had normal testosterone levels, what I could do. And for years and years and years, people would accuse me of taking steroids, and it never was. Yeah, I took pro hormones. Yeah, I took SARMs, but I never took steroids. And so for one is I started seeing change in my body, for sure. So, I mean, this is a fitness podcast. Let me just throw it out there. Yes, I started taking exogenous steroids, testosterone, cypionate. I've taken it, I had 200 milligrams prescribed per week, 1,000 IUs of HCG. That was my prescription. So the 200 milligrams per week of test, I actually broke up into 100 milligrams into 2 injections. So I would inject basically Monday, Thursday, to break it up twice. Instead of getting like this massive influx of testosterone that, early in the week and then just having it fade off as the week goes, I wanted to kind of keep the injection protocol similar. So Monday, Thursday, I'd inject 100 milligrams for a total of 200 milligrams per week. And the same thing with HCG. I would do 500 IUs on Tuesday and 500 IUs on Friday, basically the day after. My body started changing for sure. So a couple things. One is I did get bigger, and I put on some size, and I put on lean mass, and I was able to burn body fat. So steroids do work, people. They absolutely do work. Now, I was not taking enough steroids to put me into a crazy anabolic state. And so I was not abusing steroids. I was not taking them to get big. I was taking them to be fucking normal, to live a normal, healthy life. And that is what I need people to understand. TRT is not illegal drug use. It is not an excuse to get big. It is an excuse it's a reason to live normal, to be a normal father, to be a normal man, to be a normal fucking person. Because people don't understand just how dangerous it is to have low testosterone levels. You're miserable, you're tired, you're fatigued, you're irritable. Like, you're a pain in the ass to be around, and you are a pain in the ass to live in your skin. That's the full honesty. I hated certain days. There are days that I woke up as like, I hate today. Not to the point where I ever wanted to harm myself. It never got to that point, ever. but I was miserable with things that I shouldn't have been miserable about, right? Like, I mean, it was such a bad thing to do. And like, I had a good body, but it's just like, was there something lacking? And yeah, with my T levels being low, I was lacking the ability to build muscle mass the way my friends were. And I knew my work ethic and I knew my diet was on point. That's why I was able to look the way that I did, even with low testosterone. But now that since I've been on, and you people probably have seen over the last year just how different my body looks in the last year alone. And I looked good last year, but I'm bigger, I'm firmer, I'm leaner. I'm at 206.5, 207 pounds today. Less than 10% body fat. And, it's 10.4% body fat earlier in like July. And I've only leaned up since then. So it is. It does work in terms of what it's going to do for your body, because obviously, if you have low testosterone and you're a person out there, like your metabolism is shit, you don't burn fat as quickly, you just have problems doing a lot of different things that normal people don't have issues with. So my metabolism is correct. I can process calories more. I can recover faster. That's the biggest thing. I'm not as sore as I used to be, because the anabolics, the steroids, the testosterone that I take for my TRT is helping me recover better and giving me more energy. And I'm not as fatigued, so I can get more shit done in the gym. So first and foremost, that is one of the biggest changes in my life. Physically, I look better. And, on a side note from that, I can see why people get addicted to steroids. I can. And Drew and I talked about this on an episode of the Iron Jungle podcast once upon a time. Is like, steroids can be addicting because when you take them, you become somebody different. I mean, you become a god. Like, you become larger than life. You start putting on muscle mass and burning fat and just feel better and bigger. It's hard to walk away from that. I mean, I suppose it's the same with any kind of drug, right? If you're addicted to methamphetamines, cocaine, it gives you a certain level of feel good. It releases those dopamine levels that you like. That understand that, because I like the way that I look and I love the way that I feel, because I feel normal and I look great. So if my doctors now wanted to take this away from me, it would be very difficult for me to accept that on two folds. Because one, I actually need it, right? I actually have a medical doctor that has written me a prescription to have this. It's not a legal substance. So I need it, but I also like it. I like the way I look. I like what it's done for my physique. I really do. And that's just me being fully transparent and fully honest. I'm not going to sit here and bullshit you and lie to you. I like the way I look. I love the way that I look. And steroids obviously did help that. That is a 100% admission that had I not gone on TRT and I operated at testosterone levels in the double digits, not even in the 100, I would probably look the exact same as I did a year ago. Maybe a little bit bigger, because I do like to bust ass and work hard, but would not be the way I am now. A couple side effects to that is obviously the acne. Like, that is a real thing. You can sometimes, if you're watching on YouTube, like I do have like some little spots like on my inner biceps from it. Sucks, but it's all part of the process. If I want to feel good, it's okay. I'll take that. But it's not crazy. Like, they say like your balls and your penis shrinks. That's not true. I mean, maybe if you abuse it and you abuse a lot, maybe then it is. But in my case, in which I'm following protocol, that is just not true at all. Even more important than my physical changes to my physique is my mental changes and how I feel. And this is the biggest thing for me, because I knew I had a problem when I just wasn't happy. You can't be a good father and a good husband if you're not going to be happy. Like, that is the ultimate thing. Like, you need to be happy to be able to make others happy. You know what I mean? Like, you cannot be miserable and then still make other people happy, because your irritability, your miserableness rubs off on others, and people can see that and it affects them. And that's really what's changed, is me being a better, happier person has impacted everybody around me. I was able, I'm able for this full year, my daughter just turned 1. I was able to enjoy it, and it went way too fast. And those of you out there with kids, this, but I wasn't falling asleep at 6 o'clock. I'd still get tired. I'd still go to bed at like 9 o'clock, but I wake up at 5 in the morning, sometimes at 4 in the morning. But I was able to enjoy the things in life that you're supposed to enjoy. I was able to enjoy watching my daughter crawl for the first time and talk for the first time. And now she's almost walking. And these are things that I get a joy out of in life, because I feel good about myself. Yes, I have other stressors in my life, and yes, I have other issues in my life in which cause me pain and cause me hurt, but it's not based on low testosterone levels, which is something that I can control finally, and I can take care of myself through my prescription at my doctor. recovery. I mentioned that in terms of physicality, but like the mental health aspect is really where, I'm not, like I said, I'm not fatigued. I feel good. The mental health thing is the biggest thing because mental health is a huge issue in this country and in any country where you feel bad about yourself or you're just not happy and you're depressed and nothing really can ever live up to your expectations. That is a dangerous place to be in, people. It really is. And like I said, I never contemplating hurting myself ever, but I can see why people do. And I can see how people with low testosterone get into a very dark place where they treat people poorly. They're not happy with anything or anyone. And then they start having these dark thoughts. And those dark thoughts sometimes, in some people, can turn into a reality. And that's a reality that nobody wants to live. Guarantee that. Nobody wants to go through that. So I was able to literally change my life. And I said there's not a dietary supplement on the planet that changes people's lives. But when your endocrine system is suffering and you're low testosterone, which is a very important hormone, especially to the male population, that's something that needs to be addressed and taken care of because you can't ignore it. And I get people that reach out to me all the time, and say, like, are you happy you went on it? You goddamn right I am. It's the best decision I made medically in my entire fucking life. Not only am I bigger, I feel better, I'm happier, I'm not depressed. I'm able to enjoy shit. I can stay up a little bit more. I'm not as fatigued. Is it a pain in the ass to inject 4 times a week? And I say 4 times a week because 2 times I do tests, 2 times I do HCG. Yeah, it is a literal pain in the ass. That's where I inject, right in my buttocks, right in my glute. And I don't like needles. I'm a person that hates needles, and I have 2 tattoos. But it's been fine, It becomes part of your life. Just like if you have diabetes or a family member with diabetes, you just get used to it. Whether you are injecting IM, which is intramuscular, or sub-Q, which is basically like the belly fat area, you get used to it. Now, I will say on a side note, sub-Q injection for HCG for me for the first time scared the shit out of me. Like, it was easier for me to poke a needle in my ass in terms of like my buttocks than it was to poke it into my belly fat because you can see it more. But it's not bad. It's not bad. Yes, you have the expense of buying needles and syringes, and you have to dispose of them properly. So I take them out to a local recycling center, which actually takes needles. And, traveling is another thing. I will tell you, if you have a legalized script for a test, traveling is easy. You take it with you. You bring a doctor's note with you, and they don't even say a word. I've gotten pulled so many times for dietary supplements. I've never gotten pulled for my test. And if I did, I'm prepped. I had my doctor send me a note, and we're honestly set to go. So steps for you. If you're listening to this podcast and you can relate to the things that I've talked about, especially in the part 1, where I'm talking about the symptoms that led me to go get help. If you suffer those same symptoms, the first place you have to start is getting a full comprehensive blood panel done. And I'm not saying just don't go to a Quest Diagnostics or a physical center and just get your test measured. No. You have so many hormones that you need to get tested for. There's LH, there's SBG or SBGH, sex binding gluten. I can't remember what the G is, hormone. There's prolactin, there's estrogen, there is IGF, there's cortisol levels. There's so many different things you want to get tested, and your free and total tests are obviously part of that. A full comprehensive panel, if you're going to pay out of pocket, can cost you about $400. What you want to do is, if you have healthcare insurance, see if there is 2 things. One, you can go through your primary care physician and during your annual physical and say, I also want my blood panel tested for a full spectrum of hormones, because I'm at the age now where I just want to make sure and have peace of mind that I'm doing okay. And B, like, maybe I am feeling a little out of it. Maybe I am thinking that I might have some issues. And here's what's going to happen. If that blood work comes back normal, it just puts your mind at ease. You're okay. But if it comes back and there's something wrong, you can address it and make it right. Now, if you don't want to go through your primary care physician, you can do private practice. That works too. And you can actually look through your insurance provider to figure out who they work with. So my insurance provider, for instance, is Aetna. It works with Quest Diagnostics, which is a blood draw, drug testing, huge company in the States. So my $450 panel costed me like $120, $130, something stupid easy out of pocket, which then I was able to reimburse myself through like your healthcare savings account, your HSA. So it's not bad. You do that once a year, and then you have peace of mind. Now, if you do this blood work and it comes back low, your testosterone levels, maybe your LH and things like that come back low, then your options are you can go see an endocrinologist. You can do that, but you can also, since it's 2019, you can telehear different hormone clinics, and you can actually find a doctor in a different state that can prescribe TRT to you. So for me, my doctor is not in Minnesota with me. My first doctor, I actually got connected to through Mark Lohmeyer. I went through Mark Lohmeyer's doctor, Dr. Kurt Mondel at Hormone Health and Wellness Center in Palm Beach, Florida. See how far apart we are? He was able to take my blood work, had a phone consultation, because yes, it is a digital world, and prescribed me TRT based on that. I did that because I trusted in Dr. Kurt, because Dr. Kurt also lives our lifestyle. He understands what we need, and it worked out very, very good. I recently just changed doctors to Dr. Dom. He is actually one of the doctors behind the brand Revive MD, owns a series of hormone clinics as well. He's very, very intelligent. Just had a telehear consultation with a physician over there. And I've worked with his office in terms of just making some slight adjustments to my TRT protocol. So my blood work came back, and my TRT, or my test results, remember they were 90s, right? My test levels came back at 1600, okay? Now people are like, my God, you're in an anabolic state. You are just growing. Listen, the normal range for testosterone is just like give or take 350 to 1200, 350 to 1150. So 1600 does seem like it's above the normal range. But keep in mind, I gave blood the day that I had an injection, okay? The day that you have an injection, your testosterone levels are going to be more high than what they are. They do stable out. So my stability levels are within normal range. It just so happened that day, my injection occurred on the day of my blood draw. So that's, coincidentally what happened. But I decided to change up and go to a different doctor just to try a few things differently. With TRT, obviously you take like an AI, which is an aromatase inhibitor. So for me, it's anastrozole was what I take. Basically, that just regulates your estrogen levels, because as your testosterone levels rise, your body wants a state of homeostasis. So it's also going to increase estrogen levels. Too high of estrogen levels can be super dangerous if you're a guy. So you don't want that to happen. You also, if you are on TRT, you have to give blood. Now, here's the thing about that, because your hemoglobin gets so high. Blood centers don't want your blood if you're on TRT. They do not want testosterone-laden blood, which they should, because it's the best blood in the market. So technically they don't ask you if you're on TRT, but you don't necessarily need to tell them either, because you do need to give blood in order to relieve that in the system, so that way you can be fine. So for me, for a while, I didn't get blood, and my skin got really red. I finally gave blood, and I felt a million times better. In fact, I actually have to get blood again here soon. After my move and after the Olympia, I will be going back in to give blood, and that blood does help a lot of people. So those are things that you definitely want to do. So you can go ahead and work with an endocrinologist. You can work with a primary, you can work with a hormone and health clinic. If you need somebody, you can talk to me. I can try to help point you in the right direction. While on TRT, if that is the protocol in which you are put on, there are certain things that you need to do to take care of yourself. Like I mentioned, it might be HCG for pregnancy if you want to have more kids. It's an AI to make sure your estrogen levels don't get super high, and it's to give blood to make sure your hemoglobin levels don't get out of whack. But that's just primary care of taking care of yourself. And, if you do have low T and that's the route that you decide to go or you need to go, you will feel a difference. And don't be ashamed. That's my biggest thing. Don't be fucking ashamed like I was. Don't be embarrassed about it. Even if you're in your 30s. I mean, I think Mark Lober, my buddy, went on TRT at 32. Same age as me, 31, 32. I'm not embarrassed about it. I'm not ashamed about it. People all the time, even throughout the summers, like they'd call me Juice. They'd call me Steroid Monkey. And for me, it's just like, all right, whatever. It doesn't bother me. You're right. I am on steroids, but I'm happy and I'm living a better life than I had 2 years ago. And you can call me whatever you want. The fact of the matter is I am healthy. I am happy. And that is the most important thing in my life. So if you feel like you are struggling, you feel like you have issues, reach out to me, man, and women too. Like, this is not just for men. Women, if you have issues with, could be testosterone too, or estrogen, it happens a lot. Progesterone, those are different things that can really mess with your system. Like, everybody, when you're above the age of 30, should get an annualized blood panel of your hormones. So you should do a comprehensive male or female wellness panel of everything. That's cholesterol, that's lipids, that's your liver enzymes, that is everything, and all your hormones. Make sure you have a clear picture of what you're doing, because you get one of these skeletons, one body, one chance at this life. Don't fuck it up. Don't take it for granted. Take care of yourself. And what's the worst that's going to happen? You're going to get the blood panel. It's going to come back and you're clean and you're good. That's not bad, people. That's awesome. That's reassurance that you are doing things the right way. Your body is working. And that's a wonderful feeling that you must have, because I didn't have that feeling. I didn't get that news. But now I get clean bills of health because I got help. I sought help. I swallowed my pride. I went to a doctor. I got rid of all this bullshit in my life. And I'm so much happier for it. So if you have any questions, obviously reach out to me. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, whatever it might be. Subscribe to the podcast. We're on iTunes, Spotify, and YouTube, and as well as other podcast platforms as well. Again, reminder, no podcast next week because of the move. If you like this episode, if you like this podcast, if you like me, Fitness Informant, leave us a review on those platforms. Helps out the algorithm so more people can discover the Be Informed, Live Fit podcast. Until next time, I am FI CEO Ryan Buckley. Thank you guys for tuning in for this informative episode. I hope you were able to take something from it. And again, if you need help or need somebody to talk to, your boy is always available. Let's go.